Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 3 of the Broadcast Podcast, where I invite people on to talk about their broadcasting experiences so far at Arlington High School. I'm Kolby with a K, joined on the final episode of the series with Tim Halley. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing very well. Always great to get back on the mic and do the last podcast in the Broadcast Podcast series. So, for the finale, we're doing something a little bit different. So previously, I had invited Caden Hope and Britt Nielsen. You can go check out those episodes in the series. But how we're going to be doing this finale episode is Tim has some experience on the mic, I will say, but is not a broadcaster. So he is going to be interviewing me. We're going to flip the script a little bit. He's going to be interviewing me, asking me some questions about my broadcasting experience. And I know we've talked a little bit about those in the last 2 episodes, but I'm really going to try to dive deep into what got me my start and some tips that I would give, and we'll go from there. So, yeah, Timmy.
Fire away. First question, Kolby, is how did you get into broadcasting and when did you get into broadcasting? Kind of a double one here.
Yeah, so when it would have been 2022 to 2023, it would have been probably December of 22.
Sophomore year?
Yeah, sophomore year. I was with Trevor Danker and Dalton Newcomer. They were on the mic and hosting all of those Strive events. I know they got on the Eagle Update a couple times. I got them on there right when I was starting to build the Eagle Update. But yeah, that was when I got my start. I kind of worked behind them and looked to just learn a lot from them. And then when they left and I was just kind of by myself a little bit for junior year, I did a lot of games by myself, but then we got started to get Britt on the mic. We got Nathan Irwin on the mic. And then this past year we had Caden on the mic for a lot of basketball season and a lot of basketball games. So that was really fun. In terms of how, I don't distinctly remember how, but I just remember seeing the booth and just walking up there one time and just checking things out. And then I think Mr. Parson might have walked in and just been like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I was just admiring the whole thing because I was in, I think I was just about to be in his Broadcasting 1 class, and doing Broadcasting 2 right now. And I kind of waited a year because that's just worked better in my schedule in high school. But, yeah, I would have been in his Broadcasting 1 class. So I think he talked a little bit about that and the opportunities. And I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So I think I sat up there and just listened to Trevor and Dalton call a few games, and I was hooked. And it turns out they, of course, needed someone, and they kind of threw me into the fire there for my first couple of times. And that is what happened. And I just kind of learned as I went because as we talked about throughout the series, it's very difficult. There's only so much you can be taught in a classroom when it comes to broadcasting. Sometimes you just have to get on the mic and make mistakes and say players' names wrong and get stats wrong and to just learn and get experience. So I think experience is one of the best things that you can do for a broadcaster. And that's how and when I got my start.
Branching off of kind of what you said there, you listed off all these people you've worked with. Probably, I'd say outside of Mr. Parson, who do you have the most chemistry working with on the mic? Do you think?
That's a good question.
I don't want to throw anybody under the bus
of course
here,
not.
But
Yeah, of course not. Obviously Caden's great. He's been on the mic the last year. You can go watch his. He was on the last episode 2. Go check that one out. But he just joined senior year, so he was, I will say, pretty inexperienced. I mean, we all are right when we start, but he's gotten so much better. So yeah, head to Arlo Strive and you can into the archives and you can watch some of our games, our basketball games together. But I will say, me and Britt definitely have the most chemistry. Britt is very knowledgeable. Obviously, she plays basketball. She knows, she's been there, she's done that. But just the knowledge that you can have from playing the sport to calling the sport is great. And that's probably why I do baseball, softball, and basketball the best, is because I played it. When I went and did a football game, I was scared. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty nervous. And because I just can't, I don't know what a trip Z cover formation 2-9 delta means. I don't know what that.
Play, but
I know. And yeah, exactly my point is I don't know what that means. But you guys do. So maybe if I had played football, I would be able to call out some plays and it's like, oh, they're running hook Z to the right, and on this play, or giving my advice from the stands like in basketball, if they're taking it out of bounds, it was like, all right, what play are they going to run here? Well, I think it's going to be we had 7-Up in our youth days where we would just a box formation and we would just screen up and roll to the block. I would say a screen up is good, or maybe we're getting Emmy Tim, getting a screen for Emmy. She's going to roll off. We're going to go pick and roll so she can either pop 3 or dish down to Britt for a layup. But, I couldn't do that in football. And so I really think that's the thing I've tried to improve upon, is to just kind of take in just as much sports as I can. Obviously, we got the NBA playoffs going on right now. So I've been watching that a lot just to get another angle and get more words, not just words to use, although I do love that. I just get like, someone just says something, oh, what was it? Oh, I just get a lot of good things. The MIDI was what they said. MIDI, I perked up on MIDI because MIDI is what we're learning about in music technology. But yeah, I just never heard it used that much often. But they say, Steph pops the MIDI. It's true. Warriors lead by 15. And then I was like, that's a good one. I'm going to use that. So just getting those things, but also just the pacing and the playing off of your partner. And back to your main question, that's how you create great chemistry, is just learn what your other person likes and what the kind of their pace is. Because a lot of people do paces. Some people say, I call games really, really fast and I just keep talking and fill space when I don't need to, and I just keep going and I won't stop. Mm-hmm. But then you have to be able to slow it down in the moment when it calls for it. You got free throws on the line. You're not going to be talking about, oh my goodness, he's got some free throws to make here. He's on the line. He takes a dribble. You're not going to be doing that. You're going to be, for the lead, Steph, he's 90% on the season. He drains it. That's more of your speed. So just learning that is going to be where you benefit most as a broadcaster. So that's what I will say. Obviously, I'll get some more tips and my advice coming up soon, but I'll say that's my first piece of advice. So yeah, but I will say, I also had Trent call a game with me. Oh, what was the game we called? Was it the... it was the girls' district final. Huge game. And Trent was, obviously, Britt was playing in the game. And Trent went on the mic and called the game with me because Caden was busy that night. And we did a very good job. I mean, Trent obviously plays basketball too. But yeah, I will say me and Britt have really, really great chemistry and just know the pace we're taking, when the conversation shifts, when it's time to, when there's a break in the action and nothing's really happening and we have time to either crack a joke or go through a stat line or go through a story that we've developed, and we just understand that, and we just play off of one each other, and that's what makes us a good duo. So yeah. Yeah,
I don't want to throw any biases in here, but if I had to pick, it'd be you and Caden, especially during that one Fort Calhoun game.
Yeah,
energy-wise.
Energy is important too. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because energy is obviously a lot of.
There's some people that get on the mic and it's like they're calling golf.
Yeah,
and like even golf broadcasters get more excited on good shots than they do.
Correct.
They're too nervous, and you can just hear it.
Correct, and it's And correct, golf is a different beast, but even, the storyline, you got Rory on the 18th, ready to complete the career Grand Slam. You're going to get excited.
I got a question for you on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your opinion on calling golf, because at the Masters, they're very good at churning it up at the right time. Jim Nance is I know people don't like how he calls baseball, but he is toe for toe one of the best broadcasters, announcers to ever walk the planet, and for me, it's hands down, especially with how he's in every big moment at the Masters. His voice. You remember the moment he says, "How about it's gonna be tough for him to make a 5 here. How about a 4?"
Correct.
McElroy has his masterpiece. Tiger's chip in on 16. You hear Jim Nance's voice every time. The return to glory. His voice is monotone with every Masters moment.
Correct.
Calling golf wise is my question. Have you called golf before?
I have. We did call golf before. We called a golf.
You guys did go
I think it was triangular. We went down to. Were you there?
No, but Mr. Parsons talked about it because it was a struggle to set up.
Yeah. It was a struggle to set up. We couldn't get Wi-Fi. There was rain halfway through, so we had to pause and then reset all the systems. And we pretty much had a podcast that time there where we got the senior. I was a junior at the time, so I was filming behind the scenes. But we talked to Landon Olson and Paxton Keyser and might have been Trevor, might have been Dalton, and we just talked about. kind of their senior experience, like just in high school. But then that was the thing, as I was behind the camera, and then we had to resume the golf meet and just keep going. So calling golf, I will say, in a lot of sports, but especially golf, let the audience give you your energy. If obviously before, when you tee off, quiet, please. Be chill. Maybe say their score.
Calm voice.
How many are they under? How many are they over? Yeah. How far are they from the leader? And previous wins and their journey to the Masters. And that'll take you when they're walking up, they're lining it up, we're taking a couple practice swings, and then you get to the shot, and here's Rory's drive on 4. Good slice coming back towards the center. Oh, not amazing. Gets it in the rough, but I'm sure Rory can play off of that.
The second cut. At the Masters, they're not allowed to say rough.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing with golf is how professionally it's called. Like, in other sports, you can get away with, I feel like it's very clear-cut and professional because golf is a gentleman's game.
It absolutely is, yes. And that's really important to take into consideration. Obviously, Rory got very emotional when he made that putt in the playoff, and just knowing the storylines and knowing all the information behind it will tell you everything you need to know. If it's I don't want to say another Masters, but if it's just another Masters and some random person just has a great day and just wins it, then you get excited. Oh wow, they won the Masters. But when it's Tiger's, third consecutive Masters for history, the chip in on 16.
Second. That was the second.
Second. Yeah. Second in a row. You yourself and the audience can feel the tension, can feel the excitement bubbling
or
beneath
in 19
the surface.
When he came back all the way from being at the bottom and all the scandal and all that. And
yes.
like with Rory, he hadn't won a major in how long?
11 years.
He'd been choking, and he came back and almost choked it away again. But he found a way, and it's like going into what you were saying. How do you build like knowing the story as a broadcaster? Because that's big for every announcer I've heard that knows the story coming into the game.
Yes. So one of the big things is preparation. I was talking to a college professor at UNL. He prepares for broadcast 5 days in advance. Day 1, he does home team. Mm-hmm. Player names, player hometowns. If they're from a random, because a lot of the players, he calls a lot of AA and AAA baseball.
Yeah.
Some of these people are from the Dominican Republic. You got to know how to say, Haiti or wherever in the Dominican Republic. And how far away is that from the United States? How far away is that from a city anybody would know? So if you're from Arlington, Nebraska. Oh, it's about, an hour and a half from Lincoln, Nebraska, home of the Huskers. Shout out to Husker football. And, you just kind of got to know that, but that's part of preparation. So day 1 is home team. Day 2 is away team. Day 3 is team history together. How many times have they played each other? What's the overall series record? Did any of these players used to play together? High school, college, previous teams, and then they got traded away. Like, those are storylines that you can just go with and build off of. So when two teammates from high school, one's a pitcher and one's a third baseman, and a third baseman comes to bat, got to talk about that. Like, that's just things you got to talk about. And then day 4 is I'm gonna mess this up, but I think day 4 and day 5 were just miscellaneous updates. Injuries, anything that happens like 2 days before that won't be released and then won't be released till the day of the game, injury reports and all that. So just being prepared is very crucial. Like, I hop on before every basketball broadcast. I got to hop on Max Preps. I got to get player stats from the last game. I got to get overall series record. I got to get when was the last time these two teams played each other. I got to get a playoff odds, especially in the girls' district final. Like, what's at stake here? How many times have they made state? Like, obviously they didn't make state. Last time they made state was 2001. It's like, you got to talk about that. That's a big thing. And then we talked about for a while, we got Brittany Wilkins. We talked about Brittany Wilkins for a while because, we led Arlington to a state championship in 2000. So that's just a big thing. Like, that's just things that are deeper than what everyone else is seeing on TV. And if you paint those pictures and if you let those people see those storylines and see that information, it just makes their experience so much more fulfilling when they're watching it, because they know the history, they know the rivalry, they know the deeper meaning, when it just depends. There's so many other deeper things that you could dive into, and there's racial things, there's somehow political things. There's so many
Societal
things.
influences.
Correct. Societal influences.
How much society
gender
based off of sports.
gaps. So many things that go into each sporting broadcast that if you don't explain it to people and if you don't talk about it, people are just going to be sitting there on the couch just like, oh yeah, yep, Steph just drained another 3. Yep. Oh, Draymond, nice block, Draymond. Like, they don't know. Like, that was Draymond's 1,500th block. He advances to second in Warriors history in blocks obtained. He's on his, and then talk about his contract. Talk about, he's got only 2 years left on his contract. If they don't renew him, he might not have a chance to chase number 1. But, Draymond's been a Warrior for life. I think they stick with him. And that's just things you can talk about. It's a very fine line between giving your opinion and just telling the story behind the story. So that's the biggest things for me. And that's why I love broadcasting, is just because I just nerded out for 5 straight minutes about how to find the story within the story. And that's just, and some people won't care. Some people will just keep sitting back and doing that. Yep, Steph drained another 3. But the people that appreciate sports, like yourself, people that have played sports and know the struggles and the difficulty and the work that everyone puts in, they will care. And they will appreciate you putting in that work as a broadcaster and saying it on air, because, and that's what brings me joy, is everyone going, oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's really cool. And then they look for that. And because it's really interesting to see, some high school broadcasters just broadcasting what they are seeing to you, because we have eyes, we can see, don't just tell me what is going on in the game. And I know that's kind of the point of play-by-play. So me saying that is kind of not intuitive, and repetitive, but it's true. As a play-by-play, I walk a very fine line between saying what is going on and saying what and going into color, because we have a color person. That's what they're for, and it's their job to go into that unseen things. But then you also have to play together. Going back to chemistry, you got to know. Usually my rule is about, if I'm play-by-play, I do 70% play-by-play, 30% color. And if you're color, you do 70% color, 30% play-by-play. So it's a balance. So, yeah, that's what I'll say on that, yeah.
Yeah, I saw something about, the planning process you said, and it's a lot of college football announcers, they get flown out. They're there Saturday, they fly out the next Sunday to where they're at, and it's interviews with coaches, interviews with players, interviews with assistant coaches, and the in-depth analysis they go into. You can tell some of them don't.
Correct.
Are just there because they've been there and they have the name Kirk Herbstreit.
Correct.
There's guys that,
yeah.
But there's some guys that where you hear them on the mic and they're very good. They put work into this.
Correct. They put work in.
You watch Tom Brady over the whole season, he got better.
Absolutely.
He's a guy that works hard, and you could tell that he'd gotten better at announcing. He struggled at the start, but he got miles better by the end of the season, I thought.
Correct. Broadcasting, again, so many, when people look at me and, just give me compliments randomly after a broadcast, it's I don't know how you do that. I do it how anyone does anything, is just put work in, get better, be a student of the game. Just like when you're on the court or behind the scenes broadcasting the game, be a student. Be a student of the game. Be a student of the organization. And that's the best way I can say to get better, is to just, watch sports, know a lot about sports. But that'll only get you so far. You need to be able to be a journalist, be inquisitive, and be able to dive deeper into sometimes some uncomfortable territory. There are some things when I've went to college professors at various universities that have changed my perspective on various issues, and just saying issues that some people might not even thought of. I was like, oh my goodness, how did I not think like that? It's really obvious. How did I not think of that? And how many millions of Americans are not thinking about that? So That's my thing. If you can make them think about that and make them not question things, but just make them understand there's something deeper here. There's something beneath the surface that you're missing.
Yeah.
And if I can bring that to the surface and let them know that, then I would say I've done my job as a broadcaster. And then they can decide what to think about that. I simply provide the information and say, this could influence blah, 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 blah. And they can say, well, I think it might, maybe. And the other person says, no, I don't think. And that's what sparks debates. That's the reality and the roots of any sports talk show ever, is just, GOAT debates. If we get to Timberwolves get up 3-0 on the Lakers and LeBron rallies and is the first team ever to come back from a 3-0 deficit. First of all, you have to know that that's the first. I just looked that up the other day. Is to just prepare to talk about stuff. Has any team? No team has ever come back from 3-0. They've tied it, but they've never won the series. And if LeBron is the first person to do that, you have to say this could influence the GOAT debate. Like, he's the only person to ever do this. Like, that fuels GOAT debates, that fuels sports talk shows, and that fuels the game of basketball, and that fuels sports, which is important.
As a fan, getting the deeper look too is important. But in a sports sense, I feel like sometimes announcers get very off track, and like, I'll be sitting there watching the game with my dad, and my dad just lays back like, oh my God, shut up, call the game now. Like, sometimes some announcers miss the fine line of words, and they go into opinionated talk and talk that some people like, yes, there's a background story. Like when Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, Jackie Robinson Day, there's a background story.
Yeah.
Not bringing that into everything that happens in sports. People don't want to hear that.
Correct. And I would say over preparation is important, because then if you're planning to talk about item A and nothing really happens in the game that sparks you to talk about item A, because you can't just fabricate it out of nowhere. And some people do, and that's not the correct way. In my opinion,
I don't think it is either. It takes away from the game.
Correct. If there's no reason that you would bring up such a topic, why bring up such a topic? So that's why preparation is important, because if nothing comes up that allows you to talk about item A, then you have a backup that just you can bring up at any time. Like, I have specific things that need to happen in order for me to talk about certain things. We get an Emmy to Britt assist. I can talk about Emmy breaking the assist, all the assist records and the steal records. Emmy gets a steal. I can talk about the steals record. But if you just bring it up out of nowhere, it's just...
Yeah,
everybody knows that already.
It's like sometimes it's like, call the game, dude. It's like you're watching. I think you're very good at this, as being unbiased, but like, you're watching Kirk Herbstreit call the Ohio State games. Mm-hmm. He goes there. He went there. His son goes there. Oh, I did this while I was at Ohio State. Shut up. Like, people, I've grown a lot more that people don't like him, and I used to like him, and I've grown more to like. There's a lot of broadcasters in the game that I feel like are very good and very underrated, and there's guys like him that have just had their name there, so they're there. Like, Jim Nantz got to call the MLB playoffs.
Yes.
Jim Nantz isn't a baseball guy. Like, he wasn't good at calling baseball, and you saw that, but you saw why he got it. He's Jim Nantz, dude.
Correct.
But that's not right.
Yeah.
I feel like in the big world of broadcasting, sometimes it's who you know and not how good you are. There's some guys that I've heard, like yourself, that are on smaller broadcasts, that are on AA, AAA broadcasts, that are like, why isn't this guy calling professional baseball?
Correct. And you have all those people. And it's and again, there's an unfathomable number of
just
fine
because
lines.
My big thing with broadcasting is just because you played the sport doesn't mean you know how to talk about it.
Correct. See, that's the thing. It helps, but it doesn't just...
Some people rely solely on their, I did this one. We're not here to listen about your story.
Correct.
We're listening to the game. Like, we're here to watch the game. Like, it's cool, like, I wish Tom Brady went more into that. I like when players do that sometimes, where it's like, well, what I see here, what I would have done is this, and this. Like, break down the game. Some guys just go, well, when I was playing, I would have done that, blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
I think guys that are really good, like RG3 is amazing at it. He's amazing at tying into how he was in college and how the college games go. But there's some other guys that are like, just constantly about themselves.
Yes, correct. It helps because
You're more knowledgeable.
Yes, correct. You're more knowledgeable, and that can tie into how the game has evolved.
Yeah.
But to an extent, there's such a fine, again, my point was going to be there's an unfathomable number of fine lines that you have to tread in broadcasting.
Yeah.
It is
and
a
sometimes you're going to miss them, I feel like. And sometimes you're going to step over.
And again, back to my first point, you're going to make mistakes. First time on air, I was horrible. I was horrible, guys. Kolby with a K was horrible when he first started out, but I've gotten better. And you just said, I've gotten better. And that's why you do anything. You don't do anything to be perfect the first time. Perfection. One of my favorite quotes, my dad just said it the other day, and I used it in an interview that I was just in. Perfection is unattainable, but if we strive for it, perhaps we can achieve greatness. And that's what I'm going to try to live my life by, and especially in my industries in broadcasting and theater and all the other things. So back to your point, again, just because you played the sport doesn't mean you're good at calling it. Just because you were great at math doesn't mean you're going to be a good math teacher.
Yeah, it's like the same with coaching. Just because you're great at it doesn't mean you're good.
Doesn't mean you're good at coaching.
Some people are just good. And
some people are just, there's a different level between how you understand it and how you were taught it and explaining it in a way that this current generation can understand. And it's like that with teaching broadcasting too. Broadcasting is not the same as it was 50 years ago. When it's different now, nobody taught, for the first couple years after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier, that was the thing. Like that was the thing. Like you had to, every broadcast you see an African American, you have to talk about that. You just have to. And now it's just changed. That's just normal. And we don't think about that. And it's important to bring that up every time, because not to diminish that event, because that was a huge event in the history of baseball. But it's not as relevant now. It's changed. The times have evolved. Games have evolved. Have you seen the thing where they talk about use the NBA shots from 2000 to now shots from 2025? You've seen so many mid-range shots just vanish into thin air.
The mid-range is a lost
The mid-range,
art.
Correct. Why on earth would you shoot a mid-range shot when you can step back 5 feet and make it worth an extra point? It's just... So many people are trained for threes. People have been trained to adapt to the game because the game has evolved, and it's not the same as it was 25 years ago, let alone 50, 60 years ago.
Even five.
Even five, correct.
Like, look how football has changed.
Correct.
In the past 10 years.
Yes, and
a lot less physical.
Correct, especially with the NFL, you have the new kickoff rules.
And
college football playoffs, NILs, so many things that are evolving, and it's important as a broadcaster to know those evolutions and know how that affects your broadcasting. Yeah. And that's really important. So overall, I would say preparation and each team's, but also the story within the story is most important. Again, there's so many fine lines that you have to tread while broadcasting. Can't get political. Can't voice your own opinions.
People do.
But people do.
To.
And personally, I don't think that's the right way to do it. Again, that's the beauty. So many things. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Each broadcaster is different. You see, Kevin Harlan's not going to call a basketball game the same way as Jim Nantz. This just won't happen.
Great basketball.
One of my favorite announcers.
Harlan's amazing. Mike Breen's amazing.
Yeah.
All those guys do a great job too as well.
Yes.
There's so many guys that fly under the radar that are great.
Correct. Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you don't think about the broadcasters, but sometimes you like you think about the personalities, like Bill Walton, Shaq, Chuck,
absolutely, yes,
guys Ernie, Kevin Johnson, like
correct.
all those guys.
Yeah, and I think broadcasters, because obviously they have the tributes to the Inside the NBA that's ending. It's very sad.
Actually, no, I think they extended it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Thank goodness, it was so good. I loved it.
They found a deal.
They found a deal. That's awesome, and just things like that. Not only do you have to know the broadcasting storyline as a broadcaster, but people are starting to celebrate broadcasters more and what they bring to the sports. Well, they bring such a unique
Inside the NBA
perspective.
Like, I was going to say to the NBA, that's ridiculous if you lose that, because some people watch NBA games for Inside the NBA. They don't watch it for NBA games.
Correct. They watch the shenanigans between Shaq and Chuck and everybody else. And Ernie, yes.
And Kenny egging them on.
And I'm so happy that broadcasting is getting more love and more acknowledgement, because we put in a lot of work. Me, let alone Jim Nantz, let alone Kevin Harlan, let alone Shaq. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, is growing the industry and making everyone feel like they can contribute to this industry. It's not easy. Mark my words, it's not easy, but it's so rewarding. And it gives you such a great perspective into sports and anything else you want to call. Because it's not just sports broadcasting. There are broadcasting gigs everywhere you turn. And there are so many things that people don't think about. And just growing the industry, I think, is what I want to try to teach people at UNL. I'm going to UNL sports media and communication. And that's what I want to. That's what I want to bring. So I think that's going to wrap it up for the final episode of the Broadcast Podcast. Tim, thank you so much for helping on. It was
Anytime.
a pleasure. Yes, thank you so much. And that will conclude the series. Make sure you check out episode 1 and 2 with Britt Nielsen and Caden Hope if you have not seen those. But for now, Kolby with a K signing off. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Kolby.